Hey guys, okay, I'm going to go ahead and start with a quick lesson here today. Tonight we're going to talk about nutrition labels. Now last week we talked about the sugar and how to tell if you had a low sugar product or a high sugar product. And so hopefully some of you guys, and I had a couple of you guys email me this week and messages me this week and say that you were really surprised at the amount of sugar that you had in your house and didn't realize that you had it, and then also found it to be challenging to do your grocery shopping because some of the products that you were used to buying were things that were higher in sugar than what you expected they were, even though some of them were even marked low sugar and some of them were even marked as like healthy foods. And a lot of people were coming to me this week and saying, oh my God, this is something I've been eating forever. So just being able to read those labels like we talked about last week, hopefully that 5 grams per 100 gram serving size and the 2.5 grams per 100 milliliter serving size when you're talking about liquids, hopefully those numbers were helpful for you guys and that it's something that you can utilize in purchasing foods and stuff for your house. So this week we're going to talk about a little bit more about reading labels, but what we're going to talk about tonight is the ingredient list and what all I look at when I'm reading a nutrition label. Okay, so we're going to go to share screen again, and I'm going to pull up a screen here. Now, a couple of different things that I want you to note on this one. First of all, reading labels. Try not to be fooled by all of these fancy words that we see when we're reading labels here, okay? Oftentimes when you're reading labels, when you're reading a label, they're going to say things like added vitamins and minerals and wholesome and healthy or no sugar added or all these different things that they say to try to sell you. Remember that the front of a label is made to market you. It is made to sell you something. Remember that all of these fancy little words and symbols and everything else, yes, they may mean something and it may be true, but they're typically fairly misleading when it comes to what you're actually getting in the product. Don't be sold by the front of the container. What you want to do is you want to look at the back. You want to read the ingredient list. You want to read the labels and read it for yourself and know what to look for. What the food companies are banking on is they're banking on the fact that most of us don't know how to read a label. Okay, let me go to the next one here. All right, so synonyms for sugar. This is something that usually surprises a lot of people. All of these words here are synonyms for sugar. So all of these listed items here on this sheet, plus more, this is not even every one of them that's out there. It's over 100 words that can be another word for sugar. Not just standard like table sugar, but any different type of sugar or sweetener, okay? So you're going to see all different names on here, and you notice like evaporated cane juice and cane sugar and caramel coloring and molasses and maple syrup and sorbitol, and some of these are alcohol, sugar alcohols, corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, honey, powdered sugar, so many different names for sugar. A lot of people don't even know. So some of these on here, if you look through this list, try to find 4 or 5 sugars that you didn't even know were sugar. And it's super easy to do that. Most of the time people are reading things on labels and they don't know that it's sugar. So what I would do is if I have my cell phone and I'm watching this video right now, I would take a little picture of that. And then I would bring that with me to the grocery store if I wanted to read my labels and know if there's actually sugar in a product. So it's super common to read the back of a label of a product, have it say 0 grams of sugar, and then actually have these items listed in the ingredient list. That doesn't mean it's not no sugar, right? It means there is sugar in it. It may just not be enough sugar to register a full gram. So if it's less than 1/2, then it can be 0 on your label. But it's still in there. So be aware of that. If you're somebody who's trying to stay away from sugar, that sugar will still affect your body. So if your body has a negative effect to sugar, if you're insulin resistant, diabetic, or you just have a negative effect to sugar in general, or you're trying to eliminate it for whatever reason, just be aware that it can say 0 on the label and still have sugar in that food product, okay? So that's one thing I want you to be super aware of. The next thing I'm going to have you look at is, let's see here. Hi, Kanita. Can you see me, hear me? I'm on my screen share right now, so I'm going to keep talking here on screen share, and then when I get back, hopefully we'll be able to have a little conversation. Okay, so the next thing I want you to look at is healthy versus unhealthy oils. This is another question that a lot of people have because they hear a lot of people say, eat these oils, don't eat these oils, these ones are great, these ones are not, but they don't know which ones are great and which ones are not. So if you look down the left side of this list, you'll see the list of all the healthy oils, not all of them, but a lot of the healthy oils. If you look down the right side of the list, you're going to see a list of oils to go ahead and avoid. So those are going to be some of the things that you can kind of keep an eye on as far as which oils to eat and which oils to not. One that I want you to be super aware of is canola oil, because canola oil is used in a lot of different food items. And even there's some mayonnaise and things like that out there that will say made with olive oil on the front of it. Remember, this goes back up to this one here where I was saying not to be fooled. Okay, there's some products that will have, it will say made with avocado oil or made with olive oil. And then when you look at the ingredient list, the first ingredient is canola oil. So be careful, make sure you're keeping an eye on those. Those of you who would want to keep an eye on those are going to be anybody that has a problem with processed oils, or anybody that has inflammation, and pretty much anybody should be avoiding these types of oils over here. Okay, so that's the next thing I would say there. I'm going to go away from screen share for just a second so that I can talk to the new people coming in the room here. And then let me go back to the video participants. I see Katie. I think Katie's here. Katie, do I see you here? Yep, you're here. Hi. And then I think I lost Kenita. She dropped back off of the thing again, so I'm not sure if she's having some problems with hers or not. Okay, I'm going to keep doing a screen share here just so I can get through this last part. Katie, I know that you just now came in, but when I send this video out, if you want to be able to see what you missed, you'll be able to see the beginning of the video, okay? And so I'm just going to go through this main part of it, and then at the end of that, I'll come back in and we'll see if we have any questions and things like that. And I'll answer the questions that were sent to me this week from people. So healthy versus unhealthy oils. So we talked about not to be fooled on what you're seeing on the front of the label. We talked about the synonyms for sugar, and we talked about healthy versus unhealthy oils. The next thing I want you guys, and this is why I read labels, okay? So let's look at the ingredient list on these labels. First of all, let's look at this one right here. We see salt, we see calcium silicate, dextrose, and potassium iodide. Those of you that are reading this label after what I just told you will notice that one of the ingredients in here, dextrose, is on this sugar list, okay? This right here is the reason why we read labels. Notice what product this is, okay? This is a salt product, and yet it has dextrose, which is a sugar in it, okay? So I want you to be aware, like this right here is why we read labels. There's things in our ingredient list that we're not aware of if we're not looking at that ingredient list. These two labels here, these two ingredient lists, these are both cheese, okay? So let's look at this one. Ingredient list is pasteurized milk, cheese culture, salt, enzymes, and annatto. The next one says pasteurized part skim milk, cheese culture, salt, enzymes, potato starch, corn starch, calcium sulfate, natamycin. Okay, so notice there's a couple of starches in there that are also going to be on this synonym for sugar list. Anything that's starchy is going to affect your body negatively in the same sense that sugar does. So if we're looking at these two labels here and we're making a decision between the two, this one right here is going to be a better option. Now, what is the difference? They're both cheeses. The difference here is that this one is a shredded cheese already. So it's pre-shredded. This one is a whole block cheese. Most people don't realize that when they make a pre-shredded cheese, they're going to add starches to it in order to keep those shredded pieces in one piece. And then the whole cheese is just going to be a better option for you. Okay, so those are going to be a couple of things to look at. Notice here, these are different ingredient lists for butter. Okay, so we have all kinds of oils here. We've got soybean oil, which is on the list of not to have. We've got a bunch of different things going on here. And then we have sweet cream or pasteurized cream and salt. Okay, or this one we have oil, water, plants, whatever, partially hydrogenated soybean oil. Even though it says no trans fatty acids, that is a trans fatty acid. This list here is just unbelievable. This one is considered a butter. Okay, so be careful. No, it's not. It says a spread. So be careful with that. But a lot of people don't realize the difference between this here. They're thinking, oh, it's 55% vegetable oil. That's good, right? Vegetables. We get really mixed up with the words on the front and we don't pay attention to what's on the back. So this one on the right is a Kerrygold butter, by the way. So if any of you guys are looking for a very, very good butter, Kerrygold is a great brand, and it's grass-fed, and it's an awesome butter. Now, next week, I am going to go onto this page right here, what we're looking for on labels from the start to finish, sugar, ingredients, and fat. But I will spend time on that next week because I want to talk about the difference between these two labels here. So this week, like I said, don't be fooled by the claims that they put on the front. Read the back of your list. Look for your sugars. Look for unhealthy oils, and then make sure you're making choices between these ones and reading those labels. All right, so let me go pause, get rid of my share here. I want to go back to my screen. Sorry, guys, hold on 1 second. Okay, there we go. So now we're back. Hey, Katie, how are you? Good to see you. Hey, so basically what I do in the nutrition seminar each week, or I go through a little bit of a lesson right at the beginning, and then if anybody pops in and you have a question, you get first option to ask questions. If you have anything you want to ask or say or anything else, we can discuss that, and then you can either stay while I do these questions, or you can check out and watch it later. It's totally up to you. So do you have anything? No, you're all good?
No,
Okay.
I guess I wrote to you about the Americano with heavy cream. Wasn't on your list.
I just wrote you back and said, what is an Americano? I don't know what's in it. So what's in an Americano?
Espresso and water.
It's what?
Espresso and water.
Okay, okay. All right. Yeah, no, you should be fine. Sorry, I've got people in my window over here with me. You're kind of cutting in and out too. Your dog wants to get on the business here.
Yeah. The heavy cream would be my only question.
Yeah, so as long as it's a true heavy cream. Now, what I can't say is I can't speak to the ingredients of their heavy cream because I don't know what brand they're using. So the question would be is what brand are they using? And so most heavy creams are going to be very high fat, which is awesome, and usually fairly clean. So as far as having something when you're not at home and you can't manage what you have in front of you, you're probably safe mostly with the heavy cream. If you want to get like super restrictive about it and be very careful, you can always ask them what brand they use. But they're probably, a heavy cream is typically going to be fine.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
They're usually fairly safe with that. A heavy cream typically isn't going to have a bunch of sugar in it. So.
Just kind of missing my lattes and wanted something as a little treat.
Yeah. Yeah, and the milk and the half and half and the creamers and things like that are usually going to be high sugar, but heavy cream is usually good, so you should be fine with that. Yeah, heavy cream is awesome in coffee, so.
Awesome. Thank you.
Very cool. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go through the little list of questions that I have here. I have a couple of probably 5 or 6 questions here from people. Like I said, Katie, you can stay or you can go. It's totally up to you. And I'll just go through this list for everybody so that when I send out the video, we have lots of information answered. So let's see here. One of the questions was, should I be taking supplements on a keto diet? Now, a couple of weeks ago, I did a video on supplements. Kenita's back. A couple weeks ago, I did a video on supplements and all the different supplements that we recommend for everybody and for keto. So what I'll do is I will, whoever this is asking this question, or if anybody's interested, go to our YouTube channel. We have a video on there called Supplements That We Recommend. And that one's a really good one. I can post it in the transformation page too. So whoever asked this question, I'll post the video on the transformation page, and that way you guys can read it. Hey, Kenita, you're here. So I want to ask you really quick before I go on if you have any specific questions or not. I don't know if she can hear me. Kenita, can you hear me? She's not hearing me. And now she's frozen. Okay, so I'm going to keep going on. Kenita, if at any time you hear me, go ahead and holler, and I'll let me know if you have any questions, okay? The answer by questions, how often you measure body fat? How often should I measure body fat? I don't, now during the challenge, we're going to measure it probably more often than most people would, but for the most part, I would say every 3 months. Once you get out of a challenge, obviously during a transformation challenge, for those of you that are transformation challengers, we want to measure it more often because we want to make sure you're hitting your goal. But once you get done with that transformation challenge, I would say every 3 months is probably plenty. I wouldn't do more often than 6 weeks. You're more than welcome to do it as often as you want, but a real change, probably 6 weeks time period. One of the questions here, I bought Giant Keto because the other brand was sold out. Is that okay? Yeah, Giant Keto is awesome. It's a great brand. I do think that Keto OS is a better brand. I think it's higher quality. I think it's got better VHP count, and it's more bioavailable. It's going to be a really great brand, but Giant Keto is awesome. We have tested both of those, and both of them gave us a good raise in ketones, and both of them were helpful in some therapeutic ways, but I think the Keto OS for me personally was much better. It's going to depend on you though. So if you prefer the Giant Keto brand and you feel like you get great benefit from it, stick with it. If not, try the Keto OS. I think they're both great brands. Keto OS, I just think has a little bit higher quality to it. And if you want to get the Keto OS, obviously Keto OS is a little bit more expensive than the Giant Keto. Reach out to me, or I can put the link in the page. If you order it online and you set it up for Smart Ship or Auto Ship, you can save 22% per month on that. That's the best way to order Keto OS, because you're just going to save so much doing it that way, and that is not an inexpensive brand. So can we look at the meals that I've been doing in association with my metabolic rate? My metabolism is super low. Maybe I'm doing too much of one thing and not enough of another. Okay, I don't know who this is asking for it, but yes, we can. So if you want to set up an appointment with me, whoever you are, if you would like to set up an appointment, please reach out and set up an appointment time with me. That link is HTTP. I'll put it in the page. Let's see here. No, I don't have any questions. What can I do to keep dropping weight? All right. I don't know who this is, and I don't know what you're already doing, so it's hard to say what you can continue to do to keep dropping weight, but reach out to me if this is you asking about keep dropping pounds. Easy answers would be follow the food plan as strictly as possible and hit a bunch of cardio classes, and make sure you're staying hydrated, and make sure you're getting great sleep, and make sure you're handling stress. Outside of those things, it would be hard to say if there's something specific for you. Let's see here. Can I skip a meal if I'm not hungry? Sure. I always tell people eat when you're hungry, don't when you're not. So if you want to skip a meal when you're not hungry, that's fine. But if that happens a lot and you start having issues, then you might need to add food back in. So listen to your body as best as possible. If you come to me and say you're not hitting your calories, the questions I'm going to ask you are, how is your energy level? How are you sleeping? Are you getting through classes? Do you feel well? If any of those things are going goofy, then I'm probably going to tell you to up your calories. Otherwise, listen to your body. If you're hungry, eat. If you're not, stop. Let's see here. Other than protein shakes, what would be appropriate for snacks in between meals? It totally depends on which food plan you're on. It also totally depends on if you're Rhino Challenge or Transformation Challenge. If you're Rhino Challenge, I would say anything within your food plan is going to be fine. Snack when you're hungry, and snacks don't have to be anything different than regular meals. So fruit and vegetables, and if you're doing keto, like pepperoni and cheese and things like that, or just regular meals eaten in smaller portions and then eat the rest later. They don't have to be anything majorly different. Hard-boiled eggs, whatever. But I don't know what food plan this person's on. So again, if you're not sure, if you're a transformation challenger, I highly recommend the ketones or the protein shakes in between. I would not recommend snacking on anything different in between those unless it's part of your meal from one of the other 2 meals. Am I supposed to buy salted butter? You could do either one. Salted butter is great for cooking. Unsalted butter is great for coffee. So it just kind of depends on what you're cooking, or if you're baking something, unsalted butter. So again, it just depends on what you're doing. Let's see here. I think I did just talk about fats, so I covered that. Should I be drinking ketones? I'm assuming this person's on a ketogenic diet. It's up or down on that. Ketones are awesome, but should you? You don't have to. Do I think they're awesome? Yes. Do I think there's a ton of therapeutic benefit to it? Yes. Do I know that a lot of people get a weight loss benefit and a body fat loss and a muscle preservation benefit from them? Yes. Should you is relative. It depends on what your goals are and how fast you want to get there. Do I think they're helpful? Yeah, I do think they're helpful, especially when you're first starting out, because ketones are an exogenous form of fuel for your body. For anybody who's not keto, ketones are still great for you as an exogenous fuel. They're doing a lot of testing on ketones right now, and there's a lot of endurance athletes that are not even eating keto that are using ketones as fuel rather than pre-workout and things like that, because it doesn't have all the sugar in it. So just to throw that out there, I think they're awesome, but I get it if you can't have them, so it's okay. Am I supposed to? Okay, let's see here. What's that?
I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
How long does it take your body to naturally produce ketones and get into ketosis without taking the keto drink?
Without taking them. Okay. So yeah, and without taking the keto, just to clarify the difference between the two. So there's a difference between being in ketosis and being fat adapted. So being in ketosis could be a very short-term period of time that happens from an exogenous ketone or from your body just being in a depletion of glycogen, right? So anytime you deplete glycogen in your body or glucose from your body, then your body will go into a ketotic state, but it can be a short-lived period of time. To be fat adapted means that your body is producing its own ketones and that it's in a state now where it wants to operate off of that fuel. Instead of glucose for fuel, it wants to operate off of fat for fuel. So it can take people anywhere from 2 weeks to 6 weeks is what they're finding. It depends on your body. The ways to know if you're in ketosis or that you're fat adapted is different for everybody, but what they typically see is a couple of things. Number one, they see that people tend to not have as many cravings as they used to have. The cravings for the carbs and glucose start to go away. They'll notice that you're not as hungry as usual, that you'll find that you're skipping meals and that you're not really, and that can happen at the very beginning anyways, so it doesn't mean that you're in a fat adapted state yet. But what they'll notice is that very often you'll want to start going into like a fasted state because you're like, oh, I'm just not that hungry. And it will happen more often than normal. You won't be as hungry. And then they'll also notice if you're testing, which most people are not testing blood, but if you were testing, what you would notice is that if you drop out of ketosis, your body gets back in much more quickly than if you're not fat adapted. So once you're fat adapted, let's say before you're fat adapted, you eat something with sugar in it, your body automatically starts burning that sugar first. And then it might take a couple days to go back into ketosis again. Whereas once you're fat adapted, they find that a lot of people can go right back into ketosis within a couple of hours or within the day. So it kind of is easier to get back in because your body's kind of shifted over to the idea that it can burn ketones instead of glucose. Other ways to know if you're in that you're fat adapted would be that brain fog that people talk about all the time. They typically notice that their brain, like they're more clear, they have more clarity than normal, like they just don't feel like bogged down as much and they can focus more clearly. That is what a lot of people talk about. I never got that effect, but a lot of people talk about that one. That was when I was like, man, I have never felt that. But the only time I ever feel that is when I'm fasting. And when I'm fasting, I actually feel that way. But when I'm done, it's right back to. So it just kind of depends. There's a lot of different ways. It can take people, though, between about 2 weeks to 6 weeks is what they say is the standard for that.
And so by taking or drinking that keto drink, that's getting you into ketosis faster?
Yeah, so what that's doing is it's putting you in ketosis. It's not making you fat adapted, but it's putting you into a ketosis and into a ketotic state. Let's say that you're not quite there yet and your body's not fully in ketosis. It's going to add sometimes one whole millimole of ketones. Millimole is the measurement of ketones. So like blood glucose is going to be blood glucose. You're going to have millimole of ketones. So you anywhere 0.5 and above is considered in ketosis. And what it'll do, like when I measure my blood, if I'm drinking ketones, I might start out at like 1.0 and I might end up at like 2.5 because I'm drinking ketones. So it's going to put you at a higher state, put more ketones in your body. It's going to also kind of tell your body that it's okay to burn this for fuel. Like, hey, I'm running ketones through your bloodstream. It's cool to burn this for fuel. Like, I want to give you this. It's an exogenous fuel source is what it is, right? So we have different fuel. We have 4 different fuel sources, right? We have exogenous ketones. We have exogenous glucose. That's in the stuff that we intake, right? And then we have endogenous ketones or endogenous glucose, which comes from our body, right? So endogenous ketones would be from body fat. Endogenous glucose would be what our liver produces or what we break down from muscle, unfortunately. When muscle breaks down, it turns into glucose. So there's 4 different ways to kind of fuel that in your body. Exogenous ketones are just another form of fuel. So, but what it typically will do, like I said, is it will kind of encourage your body to say, hey, it's okay to burn these for fuel. Go ahead and do that. You're out of glucose now. Go ahead and do that right now. And so the better benefit I find from keto, from drinking ketones would be more the therapeutic benefit. I find a lot of elimination of inflammatory response and things like that in the body. A lot of people have like really great response with that, where they feel like their recovery is much faster. People see a lot of therapeutic benefit in those ways, and I think, in my opinion, those ways are like way better than the ketone measurement, because especially if you're following a ketogenic diet already. I do see great benefit of ketones for people that are not following a ketogenic diet, because if you're not already feeding your body that way, you can give yourself the benefit of ketones in your body without fully going keto. And those people tend to see a much greater even response from ketones, sometimes even more so than people that are keto. So it's actually been really interesting. And the research they're coming out with on that is really very cool. So
thanks for answering that.
Yeah, anything. Sure. Anything else, guys? I have a couple more here, but Kanita, nothing, just smiling pretty at us. And you did your small group today, so you're just like recovering right now, aren't you?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, I have two more questions here. Let's see here. I have been counting calories using my FitnessPal. I'm on an 1,800 calorie diet. I mostly eat paleo and sometimes find it hard to reach my 1,800. When I enter exercise, it starts adding more calories for the day. Should I be eating 2,600 calories a day based on exercise when the original 1,800 guide is for a modestly active person? My biggest goals are losing about 10 pounds of fat by building more muscle and to continue to breastfeed for a few more months. I know eating enough nutrient-dense food is important, so I want to be eating the right amounts. Okay, so I want to answer this question. This is a couple of different answers on this question. Number one, MyFitnessPal. When you're tracking your food on FitnessPal, the fact that it already has you at 1,800 is awesome. Number one, when you add the exercise in, it's totally up to you if you need to eat it back or not. What I would say is, if you're hungry, eat. If you're not, don't. Okay, so same thing for everybody, no matter what food plan you're on, paleo, keto, whatever you're on. If you're hungry, eat. If you're not, don't. Try to listen to your hormones. Those are hormones that tell you when you're hungry, and there's hormones that tell you when you're satisfied. And the problem is, we rarely listen to those hormones. So we throw them all out of whack. We don't listen to them. And then our body gets all crazy and those hormones stop working properly because we're not actually paying attention to them. Okay, so listen to those hormones that tell you that you're satisfied. Listen to those hormones that tell you that you're hungry, and stick with that. The next step with that, though, would be is that if you find yourself getting energy depleted, then we need to start asking if you need to bump your calorie count up, okay? So if you start noticing that you're not sleeping well, that your workouts, you're exhausted, like just walking in the door, not at the end of a workout like everybody will be, but like just starting the workout, if it's hard to do that, if it's hard to get up in the morning, after 8 hours of rest and you still can't get up, that's a problem. Or if you're doing energy shifts like this throughout the day, that's a problem. So if those things start happening, then yes, I would say let's bump your calorie count, okay? Otherwise, I would say just listen to your body. So if you hit your 1,800 or you don't hit your 1,800, but you feel great, energy's awesome, and your body feels like it should, stick with it. If you're hungry, eat. And I wouldn't be afraid to go to 2,000 calories a day if you're hungry. Okay, but I wouldn't make it like every day I'm going to eat 2,000 calories. I would say, well, today I'm super hungry, so I'm going to keep eating until I'm satisfied. Tomorrow I'm not. I'm going to eat what I want. So, or not what I want, but what I'm going to stay on plan, right? Biggest goals. Let's see here. Now, one other thing I want to point out though in there. Oh, and eating nutrient-dense food is obviously super important. I challenge everybody. Every time you put something in your mouth, ask yourself, is this helping me or is this hurting me? Okay, you'll know the difference in your foods if you're looking at a nutrient-dense food and that food is helping you, if it's healing your body. Is this healing my body or is it poisoning my body? Because there's a lot of foods that are healing us, and then there are a lot of foods that we know putting in our mouth is just poison and toxic to our body. We have to kind of make that decision and get to a point where we're asking ourselves those questions. And sure, sometimes you might want to put that food in your mouth that you know is toxic to your body, but you're willing to take it anyways. That's fine, but at least recognize that you're doing it and recognize the difference between the two foods. So yes, definitely get some nutrient-dense food in your body and make sure you're doing that. Biggest goals. The one thing I noticed on here for this question was continuing to breastfeed for a few more months. If you are breastfeeding, you may need more calorie, okay? So definitely do not deplete calories if you're breastfeeding, because you definitely need to be able to produce for your child. So be sure you're still eating calories on that. And if this person would like to speak with me in private, please set up an appointment. We can talk more specifically about that if I did not thoroughly enough answer that question. The next question, or the last question I have, is about sleep aids. It says, I used to drink honey and vinegar before bed, which would help me sleep throughout the night. I've never heard of that before, but that's awesome. I'm struggling to sleep recently and wondered if you had any suggestions. So I'm guessing that honey and vinegar is not on your food plan, and therefore you're now struggling with sleep. If you have tried all of the other things to sleep well, meaning turning off the lights, turning off the TV, turning off the computers and the phones, turn off your Wi-Fi, take a bath, read a book, shut all that stuff down 30 to 60 minutes before bed, all of those things, a mind dump, like if you're just laying in bed thinking all night, things like that. If you've tried a mind dump and you've written everything out, or something like that, if you've tried everything else first and you need to go to a sleep aid, I would recommend the one that we carry here, because there's a reason we carry here. It's awesome. It's called Doc Parsley's Sleep Remedy. I usually have some here with me, and I do not right now because I was not prepared, obviously. But there's one called, I have it in here? Maybe I do. No, I think I'm wrong. Okay, so it's called Doc Parsley's Sleep Remedy. We have it up front. You can buy it in individual packets or in a box sets. And it's awesome. It's all natural. It's got melatonin in it, tryptophan, magnesium, what else? pH GABA. It's got all the different things that are made to help you sleep well. The cool part about it was that it was designed by a trainer for the Navy SEALs, and the reason he designed it was because his guys were taking sleeping pills. They were taking different pills to go to bed at night, like Ambien and things like that, to go to sleep, because they needed to sleep like right now. They needed to sleep now because they didn't know how much time they would have. And then they were waking up and drinking like Monsters and Rock Stars and things like that to wake up. So they were just wrecking their bodies, taking sleeping pills and then Monster drinks, to wake up 3 hours later, things like that. And he just realized, like, this is so bad for these guys. So what he did was he designed this sleep remedy to be something that could steadily bring you into a really good, peaceful, restful sleep, but when you wake up, you didn't feel like you were in a carb coma or something like that. So that was what he designed it for. And I will tell you, on a personal level, I'm a terrible sleeper. I spent multiple years sleeping about 4 hours a night. My husband for years told me to take this sleep remedy, and I was like, no, I don't want to take anything. I'm the person that doesn't take Tylenol. So I won't take anything. I don't think everything's going to kill me. So my husband finally convinced me to take it, and I did. And now I sleep like a baby, like 8 to 9 hours, like every single night. And I love it. So that is my recommendation. There are some great ones out on the market as well. This one is all natural. It's here in the gym. Just so you guys know, like I said, watch the supplement video that I did a couple of weeks ago. It talks about most of the supplements up front that we talk about. We only carry things in the gym that we believe in and that we use ourselves. We will not sell anything up there that we don't believe in. I've turned away tons and tons of companies on their products because it's just not stuff that we can believe in or that we take ourselves. So you can trust that anything that's up front is something that is a quality product. So if you ever have any questions about that stuff, please ask. And also on the sleep one, I don't know who this is that said that. I think it's Jason. Anybody who's taking that, if you want to try a half a packet first and see if it works for you, do that, because a half packet works for me. My husband takes the whole packet. I take a half, and it works for me that way. So save a little bit of money that way. That's my answer for sleep meds. But again, try all the other stuff first. It sounds like you've probably already tried it because it looks like you've been struggling for a while on that you used to drink that to sleep through the night. So I would try it and see how it works for you. Otherwise, that's all the questions I have. Ladies, did anything else come up for you while I was just talking everybody's ear off? No? This is what I do every Thursday. I just all right, if you guys don't have anything else, then I am going to end this video and send it out to everybody, and we will see you guys in the gym.
Bye.
Are we good? Bye.